I'll let Travis start the show. I'll stop.
Swilly Willy, it's Hotline League episode 80. And boy, do we have a great one for you. I know no one is watching live because everybody's watching Teamfight Tactics or playing Teamfight Tactics. But you VOD watchers and podcast listeners will really enjoy this episode. First, let me go ahead and introduce my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark? Mark, why are you muted?
I was muted because I was typing up the tweet. You got through that intro much faster than I thought you would. I thought you were going to be like, well, we got a 6-way tie basically at the top of the standings and joined by Inero.
Okay. Well, how you been?
I've been pretty good. I've been anxiously waiting for Teamfight Tactics to come out, and it's finally came out. So
yeah, that's how I feel. But let it be clear here. We didn't do the show yesterday because you asked to do it today. So you could be playing Teamfight Tactics because we could have completed it yesterday.
Wow.
You know what? I had other engagements yesterday, but I really should have just canceled everything today.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we should have done this Saturday night after LCS.
I don't know if that's a good idea. Anyway, Inero is also here. How's it going, Inero?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
What's up?
Glad to have you back on the show. It's been a bit, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you only call me up when someone cancels on you, so it's fine.
Well, no one canceled this time. We were just really desperate. Either way, welcome back on the show.
I just got left on red by a bunch of people. So
yeah, that's been me a lot lately. Are you enjoying? Because you guys are number one right now, right, in the standings?
Yeah, LCS team's number one.
Yes,
I mean,
along with 5 other teams, unfortunately.
Nice.
But you are still number
first.
1. Yeah, that feels good, I'm sure. Let's before we get into the show, I do want to shout out Alienware. Thank you so much to Alienware for supporting the show, sponsoring everything we do. It's awesome that they're doing that. There's a woman using an Alienware computer right behind me, and she really enjoys it. Anyway, Mark, what's this past week been like for you besides Teamfight Tactics? Anything interesting happen?
I finished my D&D campaign. We killed an ancient blue dragon. And my short, red-headed Irish drunk monk retired to a sky castle with a cloud giant.
Who do you play D&D with?
A bunch of the casters and Riot people. So Captain Flowers is usually the campaign. Riv, James, Dash, I should say. Freak DMs it, and then we have someone from our EVS team, which is they're the ones who cut up the footage and stuff. Alex and our stats bot Chloe.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm glad to see you working at Riot now, because all of us are rioters.
Well, you're a rioter?
You must be too if you wanted to. I had a badge. I lost my
contractor.
Badge. Yeah, so I used to have a badge. I lost it I shouldn't say I lost it. It was revoked on Thursday.
Oh, really?
I don't think I.
Well, you were not. To be clear, you were not a rioter or a Riot employee before.
No, I was a contractor, and some contractors get badges to come in to work.
Okay.
Even though you're not a rioter, you're not a red badge. You can come in to work, and they have a badge for people. Okay. I don't think I came in enough to warrant the security risk. In air quotes that I was.
Yeah.
Nice.
So coming in once a week is not enough apparently to have a badge. So I lost my badge.
Yeah. Well, Inero, what's the last week been like for you?
I mean, it's just working. When we're in the season, man, there's not really much of anything going on. I don't really go to the parties and stuff people go to, so.
I mean, you could have.
I work.
Did you skip the offline TV party too?
Yeah, I don't go to those.
Yeah, fuck those.
You don't go to my parties either, apparently.
Dude, I apologized for that.
Well,
I forgot, and I sent you a pillow.
That's true.
I really thought we were past this.
That's true. We are. Mark brought it up, and then it was just a trigger,
I like how he admits he just forgot about it. Not like, oh, I plans came up,
Yeah.
I
sent you a reminder
RSVP
email.
3 weeks out, and then you emailed me a reminder as if I'd ever checked my email. The email account that you sent it to, by the way, I have 1,900 something.
Okay, well, that email that we sent it to was the one that you signed up for the thing with. So you can't blame me. You're like, the email that you sent it to, it's like, well, that was the email that you gave us to send you it to.
Yeah, I'm not going to sign up on the RSVP thing that I don't know the website of with an actual email. That gets my burner email immediately.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
I agree. It's
I'm
just a party trap. It's just fucking write some things and mail them out like the good old days.
If you really wanted me to come, you would have DM'd me on Twitter like, "Hey man, can't wait to see you tonight, XO." And
Yeah.
I would have been
Well, I
there.
wasn't gonna DM everyone
But I
individually. It was a
forgot.
test to see who my true friends were, and Mark made it. So
All right.
somehow,
He had to pressure me so
It's
hard
fine,
though.
dude.
yeah. You missed out on the offline party. I went crazy.
I saw
You
that
went
cool
crazy?
photo booth. My timeline was covered with that fucking photo booth.
Yeah. Normally I go home early at these things, but I actually closed it out, and then Peter and I went and got ramen with a friend.
Oh, so it was actually good. I thought you were trolling.
No. I actually, yeah. Other than that, let's see. What do we got? We got Teamfight Tactics came out today. We can talk about that. We have, I think that's it. That was the only thing. No, we've got 6 teams tied for first place. That's an interesting stat that you don't normally get. We got, I don't know, Mark, what else happened the past week?
I think, to be honest, outside of LCS and everything that happened there, it wasn't that crazy of a week. Let me go look at the top threads on Reddit from last week, but I don't think I'm really forgetting anything.
I mean,
Rick
that's
is
what I'm
Iron
looking at too. And
Doodle.
normally, by the way, chat will help fill us in if we forget anything. It was kind of a quieter week, I think. And maybe it just feels like it was a bigger week because everyone was talking about Teamfight Tactics for the past 7 days. So,
Yeah. I mean, people are opening MS Paint now for ProView.
oh, yeah?
Cool.
I don't
That's
know
a
what if
spicy
Inero,
topic.
as a coach, has thoughts on that.
I mean, I think it's cool. I was advocating in like the first week. It would have been really cool because we were doing this like sponsor thing with the people that do glasses for us. And I was like, I mean, what's
Are
to
you not
stop
going to
teams
shout
from
out the
just
name of the
spamming?
company?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you want me to like not do
Zenny
that, but
Optical.
Zenny Optical, yeah, they're pretty sick.
We
And
don't
I
have
was
a
like,
glasses company sponsor. So if you know, until that happens, and who knows, it could happen any
okay,
day now, you can say the name of a competitor.
yeah, okay, then yeah, Zenny. But I was like, what's to stop us from just spamming that in the chat? Like,
Yeah.
buy Zenny, buy Zenny. Like, that
I
seems like
Yeah, I
everyone should do
suspect
that.
they won't let you do that.
Yeah, I don't think we're able to do it anymore. I don't know what happens. You probably can,
I
but
assume that while Riot was probably feeling really torn about the MS Paint thing, because while it was great advertisement for ProView and it went all over the place and the tweet popped off and all that stuff, I also am like imagining Riot doesn't want to encourage people to put like teamliquid.net/store or I love you Travis or anything like that into the
yeah.
MS Paint or the notepad or whatever.
I talked to Apollo and I tried to get him to message me on ProView, but he didn't do it.
Yeah. Not surprised.
I mean, we could have gotten away with it in the first week for sure, but no
Yeah.
one did it. So, BG.
But while there wasn't very much news, I do think there's a lot to talk about because we are 3 weeks into the split, so that's about a third of the way, and we're starting to see what teams are the best and what teams aren't, and it's actually quite interesting to see so many teams that are tied. I think there's an interesting conversation around the teams that are at the bottom. 100 Thieves got a win. That's great for
Holy
them.
fuck.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got
That
3
happened.
teams that are tied at the bottom: FlyQuest, Echo Fox, and 100 Thieves. The fall of FlyQuest is actually pretty crazy considering how well they were doing last split. I mean, it's just like I think there are some interesting stuff to talk, or some interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, even CLG being tied for number 1 is pretty impressive. I think it's the first time they've even been tied for number 1 since Dardoch was on the team 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, it's been a bit.
So
I'm actually really excited about the calls that we're going to get and sort of see what people want to talk about.
Should I do the spiel? Should I spiel it up?
Yes, give the spiel.
All right, so if you guys have never seen the show before, the way this works is we have a Discord that we're doing the show on. So I'm spamming in Twitch chat right now. Come and join the Discord. Click that link. Once you get here, join pleb calls 2 or sub calls. Once you're in there, you can mute your microphone. And then in the pleb topics or subtopics text channels, that's where you're going to go ahead and write out whatever it is you want to talk about. You think FlyQuest is better than they're showing, they're going to rally back, and you want to talk about that, just go ahead and type it up. If I like your take, I'll pull you from the pleb calls voice channel into the waiting room where you'll hang out until it is your turn. Once we are ready for you, we'll do a quick mic check, and then you'll be on air.
And if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. Really appreciate it. But also be sure to join the subtopics chat because it moves a little slower, and we do make sure to pull people from there. So it does give you a bit of a better chance than if you are in the pleb topics chat. So that's that. I think other than that, yeah, I mean, actually one thing I'm interested in hearing, I don't want this to turn into the Teamfight Tactics episode, but it would be good to have, I'm curious if people call in and want to talk about Teamfight Tactics and say, you know, maybe I've watched it and it doesn't look good, or I'm confused as to why people care about this, or they say like, hey, I'm watching this and it feels like this could be an esport. I don't know. It would be interesting to talk a little bit about Teamfight Tactics because I think Mark and I myself have it a lot on the brain right now, even if Inero does not. Inero, are you gonna play it?
Yeah, I already played it some.
Okay.
I think it's oh,
Holy shit, you just got so dark.
Yeah, he's changing the
going on?
settings for sure.
My
Oh,
bad. I opened my phone, and then it was already on the light thing, and I messed it up.
Yeah.
I'll fix it. No, dude, I love that game. I played it once, and I'm addicted. So
Okay.
I really want to play it more, but I'm hard stuck out of it right now.
Nice.
In the login queue.
Well,
It's tragic.
oh yeah, that reminds me. I need to
people like
move
Travis
around.
and I refuse to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Just throughout the show, Mark, I'll remind you. You remind me every 20 minutes. We click in and do something on the client.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see
All right, I
Kobe's
got
playing
some
right
people
now.
in the-
Good.
You wanna?
Yeah. Why don't you go do a test call and I'll read out some subs. Subs for subs, as Team Liquid would say. Go ahead and pull these up right now. Shout out some people before the start of the show, but new shout outs. Coco Kanja for 8 months. Girlfriend broke up with me today. Cheer me up, Travi. I'm sorry. I have the last person you want to come to for dating advice, given how things have been going for me lately. Right a CS1. 3 months. Raf for 3. Laziness for 13. Wrist Nubs Gaming for 4. And we've got Coco Kanja here. Coco Kanja, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the best city ever, Detroit.
Detroit. Is it the best city ever?
It's the best this year.
Okay. Because it's in...
Finals are coming to my home, man.
Yeah, okay. I just don't know if that makes it the best city ever.
Let him
But
be excited.
yeah, well, Detroit, I'm pumped. It's going to be great. I love it. And it sounds great because you're telling me it's great. Either way, Coco Kanja, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I want to talk about how Optic actually is good. And they're about like 1 to 2 changes from being probably like a top 3 team with those other guys. So.
This is a bold thing to say when you could have called in last week when they were 4-0, but they lost, and so now you're calling in, which is
We might have tried. We might have just not picked it up.
I appreciate it. Well, so why are they? You said that they're a top team and they're just shy of top 3.
Yeah.
So why
what
do you
really
believe that?
convinced me was the games that they lost this week weren't like they got blown out. They were close losses. To me at least, watching the game was like when I was watching the TL game, I was like, this is actually really close. Like they might be 5-1. Oh shit. But yeah, I think like if they work out something at the top or with in the bot lane and fix those, like there's nothing really too wrong, but those seem like their weak points. If they can improve those, they'll be very good, I think.
I'll let Inero. You want to go first, or should I go first?
I mean, yeah, I can go first. I think the mid jungle is good. I think their team looks consistent enough when top lane's on the tank. And bot lane is really hit or miss. I think they're like middle of the pack to lower end bot lane together as a duo in terms of how they lane together. But I mean, now being able to watch Pro View and you get to watch like individual player perspectives, you see a lot of the big weaknesses. And I think that Dokla has a lot to work on when playing carries. I think he does fine when he's on tanks, which is what, like their first 4 games, he was just chilling on a tank, right? Like I think he had Poppy for 2 of them or something like that.
3, and I forget what his other game
3?
was, but it was like all tanks for the most part.
Like when he's on tanks, I feel like if the meta's around that too, it really suits them because they don't have to worry too much about top lane impacting, and their bot lane's at least like serviceable enough to make it work. And mid jungle's playing well, but I don't think they'll be like a super top team. I think they can make playoffs. Like they had a really good starting. But yeah, I think when you have weaknesses like that, you're too meta dependent, which can be problematic.
Yeah, I think to Coca Conjur's point, I thought that the losses to this week were convincing in the sense that, like, oh, they're clearly a decent team. They didn't get slammed. They didn't look completely out of their depth. But you said something concerning at the end, which is like, oh, if they just shore up their problems, then they'll be better. But like they have like probably what I would call like skill problems, which are really hard to like shore up over the course of a season. Whereas like sometimes it's like coordination, sometimes they throw in the late game, and those are also hard to clear up. Like every problem's hard to fix, but like Dokla probably isn't just gonna suddenly magically learn how to play tanks like Inero is saying. That's like what the problem, or excuse me, that he can't play carries, which is the problem right now. Yes, like you can try your best to teach him how to do that, but that's like a pretty massive problem. And so they kind of got exposed this weekend in draft. You can kind of just target his tanks, and then you can just abuse him in the top lane. And I think they're a good team. I agree with Inero. They'll be a playoff team, and I think they will probably snag some wins at some point over other top teams because those games were close enough that I think they could do it. But I think there is a ceiling on this team because of some of their deficiencies, I guess, that don't get improved easily.
Yeah, Coco, I think.
Might be like,
oh, go ahead, Inero.
It might be my mic. I'm looking at chat too.
No, like there might be other things going on that obviously impacts how they like play the game, but I just spend a lot of time at LCS right now, focusing on actually watching people's pro view for people that I've had concerns about or didn't know too much about, just to see what it's like. And yeah, I just noticed a lot of things, especially on the Irelia game, and that seemed a little iffy, and it seemed like that's a weak point for him. But I mean, he could just be putting time on it too, or wasn't comfortable with the matchup. But it looked like a lot of mechanical things later on in the game with the way he was like throwing E's and stuff in fights. That
I have actually two questions following up off what you just said there. One is about, as a coach, you know, how you're using ProView right now. Is it the kind of thing, do you even watch the mainstream anymore, or do you just pick specific things? Like how, you don't need to give away all the secret sauce of how you're using ProView, but I think it would be interesting to hear how a coaching staff is using it in the games.
Yeah, so I don't watch the mainstream at all anymore. I don't really think there's a point. I just put pro view of each side's like vision. So I have like something there so I can also see like chat. And I just watch different people each time, and then I try to go back and watch specific players. So like at least with chat, which hopefully at some point they find a way to let us move the cameras, the player cams, so we can read chat really easily, and we don't have to find the specific players that have chat that's visible. To see like who's timing things, like if they're regularly missing certain timings, and then yeah, just watching people's own mechanical mess ups.
Yeah.
Cool.
Coco.
So then
Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry, I forgot you had a second one.
Sorry. Yeah, my bad. Just because these are probably questions that we're gonna have in general. Well, actually, this one's more specific, I guess, about the Aurelia point. So one of the things that, like, you know, it's hard to know exactly who's at fault with Doka playing carries, but they almost never play around him when he has a carry. And they had Sejuani Aurelia that game, and they like never ganked the GP with Aurelia Sejuani, which is like one of the major strengths of playing Aurelia is her combination with Sejuani and her ability to stack up stuns really easily and pull dives off. If you aren't going to get played around, and you know you're not going to get played around, would you just completely avoid that pick, or would you still take it and tell Dokla, like, you still just have to play aggro even if you're not getting support? Because like he was pretty much not taking trades from what I could tell when I was watching. But like I wonder how someone like the Shy or Wunder or like any like Licorice would play it, even if he's not getting jungle support. Like, what do you think would have been like the cure for that game, or is there just none if you're not going to get ganked for?
I mean, well, from the draft they had, they could have just put Irelia mid if they wanted to, and just picked something else top if they were concerned about that. I think if there are problems like that, teams are aware of them. Like, I'm not going to pretend like Optic's not aware of issues they might have around it. It may have just been like an off game too, where they had a different plan in mind. But if that is like a problem point for them, they could have easily just put him on something he's comfortable with. It's not like teams have been spamming Poppy in games, so it's not like they were playing a like meta top laner to begin with. They could have looked for something like that and just had Aurelia mid, but I guess they felt like they got more out of putting it somewhere different. So I don't know. I think if someone does have limits in their champion pool, you do have to work around it though and avoid putting them on that champion. That's why flex picks exist though, and they're really great. It's because you could just put it mid or something.
Yeah. I do have a question for Coco, which is you say that they're going to be able to get top 3. What that would imply that a team in the top 3, or like it would imply that, for instance, if people think TLC9 TSM is top 3, which I think a lot of people do, that one of those is going to move out. So who would you put in the other top 2 with them?
Well, I want to clear up. I said if they fix things, they can be top 3. But anyways, I say probably TSM.
Okay, so you think TSM drops down and it's C9 TL Optic, if Optic can fix stuff?
Yes.
I think there'll be playoffs.
Yeah.
I think for sure they'll make playoffs,
sure.
but I'm just not sold yet on the top 3. Coco, thanks so much for calling in. Is there anything you want to say on the way out?
Just my first topic that I wanted to talk about was how this year is going to be the best year ever because I'm in Detroit, and that's all. Oh, and last year, I called Rookie of the Split and MVP and who was going to win all in week 2. You can go look it up.
You're smurfing, dude.
Week 2 of
On
summer or week 2 of when was this?
Last year, week 2.
Of?
Last split, week 2.
Last split, week 2. Okay.
Okay, well, it's week 3, but who's gonna win the Rookie of the Split and all that stuff this time around?
MVP. I was honestly gonna say Jensen. I was thinking that a couple weeks ago. I'm gonna ride it out though. Jensen, MVP. Rookie. Wiggly.
Wiggly's not a
can't
rookie.
count as rookie.
Well then, yeah.
I don't think there's
know.
anyone in right now that counts as a rookie.
Fake
That's kind of
God.
my thought.
Wait, doesn't
By
Fake God
default.
lose his like
Does-
rookie status from last split?
Does Loss count as a rookie?
Loss is not a
No.
rookie. I think Fake God is still a rookie because I think it's like 4 games.
Does
and I don't
Ruin
think he
count?
played-
No, Ruin played.
No.
No, he's like TCL the same way.
Who
Rookie-
started
He also,
mid for
he also
Echo
played in
Fox?
Europe. So
I forgot. his
Yasui
name.
is not a rookie. I'm
Yasui.
pretty sure.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Oh,
whatever.
no,
Either way.
No, I don't know. He played in the LCS games way back. Pretty sure he's always been challenger. So
Thanks.
I guess Yasui maybe.
Thank you, Coco Kanja.
No problem.
Have a good one.
See you,
Mark,
man.
before you grab the next person, I'm going to try and restart Discord because we're getting a little bit of static. Of course, I've been on Discord all day, didn't have any of these issues, and then we start the show. I'll be right back.
Maybe it's because you're playing TFT in the background. Maybe that's the problem.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's
that's
it.
it actually. You should.
One second, everyone. Restarting. Here we go with Travis complaining, says Nerdy Tech Guy. Nerdy Tech Guy could be helping me fix these issues, but instead he's complaining about me complaining. Hello.
Which the fake waters are you drinking these days?
Oh wait, I tried the lemon water thing, and I think I got like just the very end of the lemon water where it was only lemon, and it was just gross. It's the worst
Have you
thing
tried the Cubana LaCroix thing? It's like a mojito flavored thing.
No.
It's pretty
I did
bad,
not.
but it's a unique experience, so you should try it.
Huh.
Well,
I'm
I
down.
think it might be better if not solved. Mark, do you want to grab the next person?
Sure.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, quick shout out to Sergeant Muffinhammer, Saravan, Ratio 93, Will D1 Thrill, Punopoly. Oh, I said that already. I Hate Snarf, Corey Lulu for 19 months, Alex for 2, at ESN Josh for 15, and Inero's Keyboard for
Oh
typing
yeah, you're welcome. Sorry about that.
so much.
I'll stop it.
ESN Josh, Free Vanilla, Quiet Pirate for 11 months, Rico Suave 86193 for 18 months and says, "Damn, you've officially become my longest relationship." And Dr. Manhattan for gifting one to DeRay. William is here. William, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Louisiana.
Louisiana. How's it going down in Louisiana?
It's really hot and kind of miserable.
Well,
Sounds great.
that's happy we're not having finals there. Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, with all the Timo drama recently, I kind of think there's an interesting discussion around like what pushes the meta so far that it should break the rules and be bannable? Because I think there's like a lot of inconsistencies that the ruling could potentially.
You know what he's talking about, right, Travis?
No.
Oh,
The
okay.
noob
So
rank thing.
yeah. So for people who are unaware, there is a high elo Teemo player who will basically sit in your lane randomly as support Teemo, and he'll go
I know
anywhere.
about
He'll go
this.
top, mid, whatever, and he will camp your lane, steal your XP. He'll tilt your bot laner, and everyone hates playing with him.
Yes.
But he says it's a legit strategy. It's a 48% win rate, so like, it's not good clearly, but it's also not god awful. And everyone hates playing with him. But recently he got banned, and I think it was Night Blue who
Yes.
was like complaining about him.
Yeah,
Night
and then
Blue,
he
and
got-
supposedly Night Blue got a Riot
Has a friend
friend to do it. And people, it seemed like Reddit at first thought that it was like messed up, but then like a bunch of other personalities came out and said that it was okay that or it was a good thing it got banned, and then it kind of swept the other direction.
Right. That's basically the gist of it. So William, what was your point about all that?
Yeah, I guess like I just think it creates some inconsistencies because I think there's like certain like meta strats like funneling, for example. I know in like earlier seasons the jungle would like leash camps to like the mid laner and stuff like that, where it's kind of like how far can you push the limits of what your lane or role entails before it's like bannable.
Yeah. This is
I mean,
a
at
weird
least
one for me.
At
I
least for
feel
like
like if
funneling
the
and that stuff. Yeah.
if the majority of the people in your game feel like you are griefing, and this is happening consistently, you know, it's like one thing if you try an unconventional strategy or something and people in your game, you know, turn against you because it doesn't go well. But if you're like doing this consistently and everyone seems to hate it, and you know everyone hates it, I feel like that's whenever it's an issue.
Okay, but like what if I'm like one tricking an off meta champion that's like notably like wouldn't that also make my team really upset? Should I get banned for that?
No, I mean you're playing a champion that Riot introduced in the game to be played. Like there's like a weird fine line where it's obviously like you're griefing. Like if you go in and you know you're playing Nunu and it was like the old disco Nunu with clairvoyance and stuff and you're jungling, you don't have smite. Like it obviously doesn't work. Like it doesn't function. There's no argument for why it would be better. So it's very easy to just say that's bad. Like picking a champion just because you want to play it and grinding, like they're never going to ban anyone for that. And I think that's like a really clear line Riot has set.
But is the
Yeah.
line that Riot has set correct?
I mean, in terms of like being able to play champions, yeah. I mean, past that, obviously stuff gets weird. But when you bring up like funneling and that type of thing, I mean, that one's pretty easy to say that it's viable to do because people are just using it to boost. Like most of these strats pop up from people boosting doing it because it just works in lower elo games and it like guarantees wins and guarantees that you get strong without having to really risk much of anything. And it like yeah, it dooms your teammates a little bit, but it's not that bad.
So Nero, do you
So-
think
so
that the Teemo player should not have been banned?
I guess I'm more concerned with like where we draw the line. So you talk about how like funnel's viable, and so it like justifies it. So in that case, is it just whatever is viable we justify?
Well, I do
I
want to hone in on this really quickly because I do think we're talking about a specific situation. We're opening it philosophically, but I am kind of curious. And Nero and Mark, do you think the individual should have been banned?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think-
you should.
You're saying yes, Nero?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I
think
think
the
so
big
too. By the
thing
way.
is when you are not following the like you can select your role, you know, and like support goes in the bot lane. So if you queue for support and then don't go bot lane, you are not really playing the game in a real way. Whereas like funnel still uses the jungle and mid to jungle and mid. It's just about, you know, taking smite and how you're actually playing the game out, but you're not like destroying one of the positions to funnel realistically. And it's also not spreading over to the rest of your team. Whereas this specific strategy takes the support position, removes it from the marksman player who wanted to support, and puts it somewhere else who did not want to support. And so you're bleeding over into these other roles, and that's, I think, for me where it becomes
Where the line is
bannable.
drawn.
Right, whereas funnel is just a mid jungle, and they probably have to agree to do it, and it only influence, like, not technically it only influence. Of course, there's spillover to like, oh, our mid has less pressure, but it's not like the jungler is suddenly top with smite 24/7. He's mid with smite, and the mid laner has agreed to it.
Yeah.
I think the ruling around it and stuff is obviously going to be intentionally vague because you can't just set a clear line of like, this is okay, but if you go to this point, this is
Right.
bad. It's just griefing. And if the vast majority of people playing with you don't like to play with you because they think the strat is bad and they think it's not helping them, and there's no proof from your side that it's actually helping the game, then it's griefing.
Yes.
Like you're making the experience bad for everyone, and it makes sense for Riot to ban that because they don't want people to quit playing their game because someone's making it unfun.
Yeah.
Right. I think at the end of the day, you have to kind of treat these kinds of really weird fringe cases as weird fringe cases and like actually examine it and then make a decision. So like, while I say the problem with this versus funnel were the reasons I listed, I'm not saying that's like a universal rule that like any strategy that somewhat messes with the positions is instantly bannable, right? Like, going on a case by case basis on fringe things is better than trying to rewrite the rules to incorporate that fringe case, in my opinion.
Yeah, like someone said in the chat, it's soft inting, so it's really hard to pinpoint it. Like it is like very soft intentional feeding or griefing. It's not feeding in this case, but it's just griefing. Like he's just funneling experience to one lane, basically, and like funneling a gold lead to one lane and sapping it from someone. So, I mean,
Against
that's
other people's
pretty
will.
grief. Yeah.
Like I think that's the biggest thing is like it's griefing because no one wants you to do it and you do it anyways. Yeah, I don't know. And then of course people say, oh well, picking the champion that people don't want me playing is griefing. And it's like, well, no. But whatever.
Well,
Yeah, I guess that makes sense for the most part. So it's really just like it'd be okay if he wants to play this roaming Teemo, but like he just can't literally sit mid all game. Like he has to, I guess, focus around bot to an extent. At the
Yeah, like if he's just power roaming, like he's like shoving bottom and just leaving and then coming back later, like okay, but you can argue that the roams really aren't that great, but he's just sitting in a lane.
yeah,
And
because
then
I think of like
choosing
that as the same. Like Bard plays like that. I'm sure there's other supports that could do the same.
well, do you feel like that's a good? Did we cover your topic well enough, William?
Yeah, I think that's definitely more reasonable than most of the discussion I've heard on this.
Well, subreddit's not usually a good place for a reasonable discussion.
Yeah, it's just a touchy topic.
Yeah, people get really mad on that.
William, anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
Thanks for having me on. Shout out to Alienware. Thanks for supporting the show, and that's it.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. All right, on
Someone brought
to
up
the next caller. What are you saying? What's up, Inero?
someone brought up helicopter perma roams, but like that's the topic that like that's the example I just brought up. Like he starts in lane, and then he leaves, and on a base he'll go top. Like he does stuff like that. That's not griefing. That's just an inefficient roam that sometimes works. It's not. It's very different than sitting in someone's lane the whole game and never going bottom.
Yeah, it's pretty different.
Yeah.
Jeez. Imagine someone just picked Evelyn and sat out of vision and just sat there.
Yeah, that would be
Griefing.
a little hint.
Well, want to grab the next caller? Off goes Mark. Shouting out some more people. Dr. Manhattan, gift us up to DeRay. Oh, I got that. Shadow 554, Avon Hun 2, Plastic Harp for 2 months, Abusive Pie for 13, Cable 55, and Ilarea, I believe, for 5 months. Thank you for doing that. We got Siege on the show. Siege, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Michigan.
Michigan. Whereabouts in Michigan?
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So obviously, like you guys already talked about, 100 Thieves got their first win this past weekend. Whether it was clean or not, it's a win. Everyone rejoice. I was on the show a couple weeks ago predicting that 100 Thieves would win the split. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But pretty much what I wanted to bring up was obviously someday, which I don't know if it was you, Mark, or some of the other casters said that someday was like the bright spot in 100 Thieves. To get a win, they actually had to sub him out, and especially with like the import rule, they can only have 2 imports. So I just kind of wanted to get your guys' take on, do you guys think that subbing out someday for Fake God was like more of a band-aid thing? And if it is more of a band-aid thing, what more permanent things could 100 Thieves do to like make that like somewhat more consistent?
I think they were just kind of throwing shit at a wall and hoping something worked.
Well, did this? I mean,
Yeah.
this worked, right? So should they?
I
Let's
just
guess
make
it
this
worked. They beat the other 1 in 5 team.
Let's
Yeah.
make this
I guess.
I mean, I
the
think.
100
Oh, go
Thieves
ahead.
call.
My bad.
I'm saying let's just generally make this 100 Thieves
Sure.
because there's been a lot of people who are like 100 Thieves is fucked. Someday's better than Bang. Bang is the right option. Let's bring in Ryu. There's a lot of opinions, so
Mhm.
let's just make this the general 100 Thieves call,
Yeah.
and hopefully we can answer Siege along the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. One thing I would like to say is that I think that Ryu in Force Ligo, I mean, just seeing someone like, even though in the Golden Guardians game, obviously 100 Thieves lost on Saturday, just seeing Ryu being on a champion and making plays and being proactive was super awesome, like compared to what like everyone has been seeing from 100 Thieves. And obviously like that's been improved with like amazing like doing stuff. So just like you said, like just throwing shit at a wall, like it makes sense. But like, do you think that there's any point in the split that you think that they'll like settle on something? And do you guys like have any ideas what that would be?
I mean, I'm sure they'll settle on something, but I feel like when it's throwing around players like this, I obviously have no idea what's going on internally, but it's not like they're making huge individual improvements when they're changing people. Like changing Fake God for Someday, I really don't think is an upgrade. It might be an upgrade for
Mhm.
environment or something. Like maybe Someday's being a dick behind the scenes. Like I don't know. Then changing Ryu for Saligo, they're just bringing a guy in with experience, but I don't think Ryu is like miles better than Saligo. He's just actually playing to do something, and Saligo's trying to, it seems like, not look bad, so he's just trying to survive. I don't think these changes like suddenly make them insanely better. I don't think their team looked insanely better or different. So they'll probably keep changing things up because realistically, they just beat another team that was also changing up their roster.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think they'll eventually settle on something, but not because it's good. They'll just
Yeah, I
settle on
gotcha.
it because it's not working or something.
So have you? Obviously I'm guessing that you watch all of 100 Thieves' VODs because you guys played them, obviously. But like, and
Yeah.
like how I've been looking at things from like the past, like at least this past weekend, especially, like everyone just seems more proactive and everything. So have you just kind of like been seeing that like on the same level, or do you think that has been increasing, or is that kind of just like maybe the players just being frantic and maybe trying to force too many plays?
Might be a bit that they're more proactive with the people they have. I'm pretty sure a lot of it will just come from like the comfort aspect of like Ryu being used to the LCS, like he's played there. So
Mhm.
him and Amazing are more willing to go do stuff, whether it's good or bad. They're like comfortable doing it. I don't think Saligo looked very comfortable doing it, but I don't think he was exactly prepared to come to LCS.
Yep, that's
So like,
understandable.
I mean, that's definitely going to be something that's different, I think, by having that setup. But it's at the cost of their top lane is going to be significantly weaker for now until Fake God gets better and gets used
Mhm.
to playing in LCS.
I think I disagree a little bit with Inero. I think based off what I saw, even in their loss first Golden Guardians, was better than what I had seen in any of their other games so far in their losses.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I think the Ryu change is one that I think they will stick with. I also think, like Nero saying, Sligo is probably not 100% ready for the LCS. Like I don't think he's stage ready, and I think you can hurt a younger player's career by putting them in before that time,
Yep.
and they lose
Yeah.
confidence, and you can really hurt their career like that. So I think even if it was a temporary uptick just because honeymoon phase something's different and Ryu's not going to lead to more wins, I would still keep Ryu in just for that reason alone. And then I think the rest of it is figuring out if Fake God or Someday or Prismal and Bang are the right choices. I think Fake God looked hella sus, but I'm overall optimistic on that guy's career. So I almost for the same reason kind of want him to be Someday. But then you get into these weird things like should Prismal be with Afro or should he be with Stunt? And like I think I want them to try Prismal in some combination with Ryu and Someday, because maybe that might be better. But I definitely liked Ryu. I thought he looked more proactive and just like forcing things around the map. And he is as far as I can tell, I've never worked with the guy, but Ryu seems like a good leader in game for, you know, finding things to do. So I don't know. I thought they looked better. I still think, you know, they're not going to get out into playoffs by any stretch of the imagination, even with this, like, you know, quote unquote upgrade. But I enjoyed watching their games. Normally I watch 100 Thieves games and I want to fucking die watching them play.
Yeah.
It was not the case this time.
It's so interesting to me because it's sort of like if you're running that team, what are you hoping to accomplish? Like, obviously, you know, you want first place, but now that you know where you're at and what your options are, it's like, what are you aiming for? Just like, oh, please don't get last place, or we just need to make sure. It's like, this is just like the hangout and try not to lose a lot of games split for them, you think?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think because a lot of the communities have been like kind of like it's normal targeting like random people. Like I've seen people like, oh, Afro was inting. Like some guy posted like, I watched his pro view and he didn't hook for 13 minutes. And people are like, wow, imagine if you did that in solo queue, how much your team would flame you, and like some random shit like that. People are calling out like individual players, like this guy's the problem. Like if they fix that, this will change it. When for the most part, you really don't need to be like that great of a team individually to actually be better than the teams at the bottom. For the most part, you just have to actually be a team. Like you have to be willing to do something together. And usually a lot of the teams at the bottom just struggle with the fact that there's probably something wrong in their environment and people are a little bit tilted and frustrated and they don't want to like talk out their things with each other, or they're not willing to help each other. So they just end up being worse than the sum of their parts. Like it's not like Sunday's a bad player. It's not like Bang's a bad player. It's not like Amazing, Saligo. All of them are like unable to function at LCS. They're just awful. Like they should stop playing. Like it's not like that for any of them. It's just whatever's going on with their five, something's wrong with either how they work together or their team environment and how that's set up. Like there's just other stuff there. And it's like that for all the teams that are like 1-5. Like FlyQuest are 1-5 now too, right?
Yeah,
it's not like they're suddenly just awful individual players. They were just in playoffs. Like they just got the top 4 in playoffs. It's not like they're suddenly just they've lost how to use the keyboard and mouse over that time. It's like something happened with their team and they have to fix that shit. And it's not as simple as just replacing one person and putting a new guy in.
Well, see,
I mean, FlyQuest
go ahead,
was
Mark.
exactly what I was going to talk about. Well, I think just to highlight how important, you know, having a not only like good team environment, but also a play style. Like in spring, they were the team fight focused, farm till 6, JJ on tanky supports, and you had Santorin farming on like Nocturne and shit like that. And now it's just like their team is completely different. It feels like they lost their way. So like part of the problem with teams like Clutch and 100 Thieves is like I don't know what that team's standard win is compared to Optic, who also didn't make any changes and is at 4-2 because they're like, you know what, Dokla, you're never playing Yorick again. You're playing Poppy, and we're playing around Crown. You know, like just picking a play style that works for your team and finding it is super important too.
Yeah. Did we answer your question or talk enough about your topic, Siege?
Yeah, no, I think you guys covered it well. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, obviously, thanks for having me, guys. Do you mind if I plug a YouTube channel that I do stuff on? It's totally fine if I don't.
Fine, do it.
It's fine. Okay, it's called Siege. I make these shitty videos called Genuine Guides. They're really bad. No one on this podcast, please go watch them. But anyone else that wants to do anything but play Teamfight Tactics or listen to these guys, have at it after the podcast. Thanks, guys.
Wait, is it a Teamfight Tactics guide?
No, so I do really shitty videos on on me just fucking around in League with my friends on really stupid champions. That's pretty much it. Like Teemo ADC. So it's kind of like
Teamfight Tactics.
I'm actually planning on it. I was in a queue for an hour, and then they're like, "Oh, you can't get in because there's too many people." I was trying to today. It's terrible. So
I'm
maybe I'll
click
get
around in this client right now. Good call. All right, thank you so much, Siege, for calling in.
Yeah, thank you a lot, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
See you, man.
Well, we tried to fix the audio issues, but they're still popping up. I'm not sure why. Sorry, friends. Really quickly though.
Is it time?
It's time to talk about our sponsor, Alienware. Look at this. It's somewhat out of focus. I should have planned this better. There's an Alienware computer right behind me. I'm using an Alienware computer, and we have, by the way, I want to shout out. because I just got a chance to check it out at E3 last week. The M15 and M17s notebooks, which just got a refresh. They look beautiful. Go check those out at alienware.com/Travis. Do yourself a favor. Check them out. They got headsets that are coming out in July as well. You can do a little bit of searching around to sort of see the announcements around that. But the biggest thing is that in less than 2 weeks, Rift Rivals is going to be happening. And on Friday night of Rift Rivals, we're going to be doing a live Hotline League. Inero's going to be there in the audience. He'll make an appearance on stage, right, Inero? Because you missed my birthday.
I'll definitely be there, Travis.
There you go.
Are there free drinks this time, Travis?
Yes, I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so.
That's how you get all the pros to show up.
Yes. Well, and it's actually, the nice thing too is it's walking distance from the LCS studio. So I think that'll be part of it too. If you are a ticket holder for that day, you can definitely come in, but we're going to be taking waitlist stuff. So either way, please check it out. We'd love to see you there. And also check out Alienware stuff. It's actually, you guys do me a big favor when you go to alienware.com/Travis and just browse around. Look at some of their stuff, you know. You don't need to buy anything, but if you do, use Travis10 off for that 10% discount at checkout. You can get some good stuff, especially because I think sometimes that code stacks with certain sales. So there's some good stuff out there for you. Either way, thank you so much to Alienware for supporting the show. And we're back. Oh, go ahead.
I got a question, Travis. So Rico Suave was going to call in, but his internet was terrible. So I asked him to write out his points for his topic. Is it okay? You want to just do these now or what?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so he was saying he thinks CLG will finish top 3 this split. And his reasoning was, number 1, Rune is a great pickup. He has a good job putting pressure on the other side of the map and generally makes good decision-making when the team's going to fight. The CLG mid and late game is much cleaner now when it comes to decisions. The last game against Golden Guardians in Spring Split, CLG would have lost after that bot-based turret fight where Power People got caught, but they came back. CLG beat TL. TL was good. I guess that's his third point. And CLG might not have a superstar carry player, but they're a real team that doesn't have to just play around one player taking all the resources, so they can focus on more calculated play. So
let's take a vote.
Pitch for CLG.
Let's take a vote. Do any of the 3 of us think CLG will make top 3?
No.
Okay. So we don't need to end the topic that way, but I think we could start off with it that way. I don't know. I look at that lineup and I feel like they're kind of in an Optic state where they are getting some lucky early wins. I don't think necessarily that it's not that they don't deserve first place, because apparently more than half the league does, but I definitely think that they are not on par with TL, C9, or TSM. And I don't know if I would say that they're on par with Golden Guardians. I'm not just saying that because Inero's here, but I do think Golden Guardians is maybe looking a little bit more flashy, a little bit more clean. So I would say maybe they're 5th. Maybe.
I think they can get playoffs. Like, I think that Echo Fox has kind of forced their way out, or it's going to be hard for them to get in. And FlyQuest are in the same boat. So realistically, like, to get to playoffs, they just have to stay ahead of those 2 teams, which I think it's very easy. They're in like the same boat as Optic.
Well, they have to stay ahead of Clutch as well, right?
Clutch.
Yeah, I guess. I was just counting last.
Because it's very likely that I actually think, if I were to predict right now, all the teams that are in first place are the ones that make playoffs.
Whoa, bold prediction there.
I mean, I think it could very easily happen, yeah. I mean, CLG did just beat like our LCS team.
Yeah.
So that's a good win for them. They just need to keep beating playoff teams, and it's very easy for them to make playoffs.
Yeah,
Who do you have more faith in, Optic or CLG?
Probably Optic, but it's pretty even, to be honest.
I have more faith in CLG. Because if you don't have faith, why are you even here?
God damn it, Travis. Mark. What's your actual answer to that question?
No, I actually do think CLG. I think Optic I think they got really lucky in the first 2 weeks. And I think while CLG has also gotten lucky, I think Optic had a luckier situation. I do think CLG, especially with Ruin now, it's just like They're just a nudge ahead of Optic in terms of strength. So I would give them more faith there. By the way, Mark, I want to ask you about this because I got flamed just now because people were like, well, CLG just beat Golden Guardians. Which one do you think is stronger, even though that game just happened?
Probably Golden Guardians.
Like, this is the interesting... oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's a little similar to Optic, where, like, I don't know how good Ole will be when people start banning the Tom Kench. I don't think he's, like, Dokla level problems with the Poppy, but I think he is legitimately one of the best supports in the league on Tom Kench, and, like, good average to good on other champions. But I still have more faith in the entire rest of the roster. CLG to me, and like even comparing to Optic has higher highs and lower lows. Like I prefer Optic's mid jungle duo quite a bit to CLG's. I think Wiggly's been good and PoE's really good, but Crown and Meteos are a better version of that. But their side lanes are better too. So I actually think the battle is pretty close between those two teams.
Yeah, like I think CLG has a better top laner and a better bot lane, and I think that Optic just has a better mid jungle duo. So it's an interesting matchup that can be very meta dependent. I don't think it's really in either team's favor because of that.
Well, so I think that the whole point was, or the question at the beginning was, CLG top 3? Probably not, but we do think CLG is playoffs potential. I think generally speaking, we think of them as 5th place. Am I correct?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, around there. I think the top 3 teams are just more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. All right. I'll go grab someone then.
Cool. Kwolf55 for the 2 months. Fragbite Light, I support you, LOL, for the 3 months. Oh, Fragbite Light, by the way, 18 months. That's crazy. I'm Elvis4 for 16, and Aduin for 15 months, and says 3rd place should be decided by a team fight tactics match. Not sure if that makes sense, but I appreciate the idea. Warden Winter is here. Warden Winter, where are you calling from?
Calling from Idaho.
Idaho. What's going on in Idaho these days?
Not much.
Well,
it's pretty dead.
I wanted to at least give you the opportunity, but that's about what I expected. Anyway, so what do you want to talk about in the show tonight?
I want to talk about how ProView is going to lead to a lot higher turnover in the lower end of talent in the pro scene, because a lot of their weaknesses are going to be noticed both by other teams and even by their own teams more than it would be before.
This is crazy. Okay, so Inero, do you think I love this topic, by the way, because I think it's super fascinating. Inero, how much more exposure and insight are you going to be able to get on these players now? Because especially the players on your own team, you don't need ProView, right? Like you already see how these guys are playing in scrims. And so is that a factor at all? Do you feel like you gain more info on your players and are like, oh, maybe this guy's worse in this area than I expected or something?
I mean, teams have already been able to be pretty aware of their own issues on their team and have already been pretty unwilling to necessarily replace those with people that might be better than them in academy. So I don't think it will change too much. It'll just make it a lot easier for people outside to actually see, see that these players are playing worse and like point it out. And that maybe puts more pressure on orgs to do something, because public perception does have a pretty big weight. And I don't know if everyone really recognizes that, but I know some management ownership level things can be swayed by public perception. Like it's happened in the past before. So it wouldn't shock me if it happens, but it's not like it's going to change too much from staff side of things or like players analyzing each other or recognizing each other. I feel like everyone kind of got that from scrims anyways for their peers.
And you guys, I don't know if everyone knows this, but coaches and teams get their replays of their games from LCS, correct?
Yeah, we've always had replays, so I can just watch someone play the game.
Right, you don't get to see their mouse clicks, but you generally get to see what they're doing. You don't know, this guy doesn't look around the map enough necessarily, but you can get that from watching the high scrims.
Now I have that part to look at other teams, which usually just helps with like scouting and understanding how other teams work and how their players individually work. But it doesn't change the whole problem of teams knowing someone isn't optimal and then replacing them.
So Warden,
Well, I have
given
a
what
question,
Inero
like-
just said about the sort of situation, do you still think it's the same?
Well, I think it definitely allows like for more opportunity of trading players too. Like you might view the strengths of a player better. And I was wondering, do you get ProView access for the Academy games too, or is it only the LCS stage games?
You can't look at Academy games, not through. Or were you asking about ProView? I'm sorry.
Yeah, with ProView.
Yeah, no.
So
you
I
Is
can't.
assume you get
Riot
the-
going to share those?
I assume you
I
get the
get like
replays though.
replays for Academy, but no ProView. Like nothing at all for that. Which, if you had ProView for Academy, that would also be nice, but it's not really possible, I guess, since we're not playing Academy
Well,
on stage.
I haven't checked. Can you watch the Sunday games on ProView?
No, you can't. I tried to.
Okay. Because it's
But-
I assume it's a technology that's available at the studio only. So those matches being at the studio, I would think could do it, but I
Yeah.
guess not.
Yeah, no, it's not set up. But that would be really nice. It'd be cool to see from Academy people.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't do that.
Who knows?
Maybe just their setup doesn't allow for it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well,
Uh,
either way,
On the topic of things that people maybe sit on their existing talent for too long, what do you think would be something that could spurn people onwards to start making those replacements or being willing to take more risks? Because now people always say like, oh, they don't do it because you can't risk getting relegated, and there are all these reasons in the past, but now we have Academy, there's no relegations, there's all this stuff. So like, what do you think is something do you think there's something in specific that's holding people back, or is it just like a general cultural fear of people not wanting to look bad or something if a risk goes wrong?
Yeah, I think it's still like a general cultural fear of like looking bad for it. Don't think people are too down for like having a rebuilding season. Like teams might say it, but they're really not down for that. Like I'm fairly certain like no one's really that down for it. Like I'm thankful that for our team at least, like they're down for something like that if it happens. So like when we came into this year for things, like we were aware that it's like a rebuilding year because of how last year was for Golden Guardians. So we're open to like moving stuff around, but our setup came in and it was actually like a good setup for what we did. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think teams are just worried about looking bad, or I guess like if you're a coach on a team, if you have a last place split, it probably doesn't look too good for you, and you'll probably get fired. So no one really wants that to happen. And I don't think anyone comes into a split and has a reason for their split to be bad, because it's not like we have a draft or anything, right? It's not like, oh, we're waiting until next year so we get this guy from the draft that'll be really good, like you have in the NBA or something, or you're having to worry about like cap space for salary and stuff like that. So it's just like a different setup. So I think people only change when it's like panicky.
so
that
Inero,
makes
your
sense.
take though is that ProView will only have an impact as far as it affects public perception of pro players.
Yeah, I think it'll just be public perception, and if that sways, then that's really it.
Yeah.
It's the only impact.
Well, it feels like that'll probably happen given, I don't know, the fact that these little highlights can get clipped. I know you're not supposed to show, but it feels like anything less than 30 seconds, right? It's not going to really care about.
Yeah, I'm sure people will clip stuff and put it all over Reddit when someone enters something.
Yeah.
In the off chance we don't get a chance to talk about it, with Echo Fox's changes, now that they're 1-5 and stuff, like I was someone who was like, oh, this looks like a long-term planning type move, like 2020. They're seeing if Yasui's worth keeping. They're seeing if Lost is worth keeping. They're probably going to keep Solo. Who knows what's going to happen with Rush? And like, I thought that was like some long-term planning type stuff. And to see them go back to Phoenix and Apollo is really weird to me. I don't know what your take is on that.
They're probably panicking because they lost. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
why else they would. Like, they're planning on using Lost for next year, then why not just keep using them? Or if they're planning on using Yasui, then why not keep using them? Maybe they were just testing to see if they were good. I mean, Echo Fox has already tried Lost before. They did it the year that I quit. So I don't know what they're really testing on it, but all I can assume is that they started to lose and they don't want to lose, and they probably thought they would still make the playoffs easily. with the change up they did. So I don't know. I don't know what to think, but I'm assuming it's panic.
Right.
Well, thanks so much, Warden Winter, for calling in. I feel like that was a pretty good discussion about the ProView stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Have
Thanks,
a good
man.
one.
See you.
All right, we got 3 more callers. Might have a little bit of a shorter episode this week, guys, especially because I know we're having the audio issues, which is frustrating. Fretful Winter, thank you for the 3 months. Really appreciate it. Inero, how's life?
Life's pretty good, especially right now because I just clicked login for Teamfight Tactics and it
Yes.
logged me in and I'm in queue.
Apparently, everybody can get in
Things are
right
good.
now. There's no queue.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Or
no,
did you
life's
have a
good.
queue?
I'm enjoying things. No, I didn't have one. It just put me right in.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Travis, life is not stressful. Life is good. I actually really enjoy working with Academy and stuff with Golden Guardians. It's really fucking nice.
Nice. Is that where you are most of the time now? How much do you help out on the main roster?
Really not too much at all. I give like input and stuff on what I think that they could like work on and they could draft, but I'm pretty much primarily focused on Academy and trying to build up players to go to LCS. It's just been what I've wanted to do forever. I have not been able to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to change the server because I just noticed our Discord server is located in Hong Kong. Maybe
okay. Yeah, we're not in Hong Kong.
That's a factor. 1 second. Here we go.
I enjoy.
Oh.
Hello?
I'm on green.
Okay. We're back.
All right, I got 1 MS on my voice. Nice.
Banana Balls is here. Banana Balls, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Greece.
Greece.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on in Greece?
It's summer. It's great. It's warm.
Awesome. I've never been to Greece. I would really like to go one day.
Yeah, you told me so last time I was on the show.
Well, I still haven't gone. What's up with that? Why haven't we done this? What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So, here's the thing. In my opinion, the league and the standings are pretty much finalized right now. I believe that the top 6 teams are the ones that are gonna stay in playoffs, with the top 3 being TSM, Cloud9, and TSM not in that specific order, but you know. And the other 3 struggling for the final 3 spots, with Golden Guardians having I don't know, being a step over the other 2. As for the final 4 teams, I don't believe that any of them have a chance in moving up to playoff position, so that's done. And I don't know, this split feels that it lacks. The games are fun because the meta is hectic, but other than that, because of the lack of competitiveness among all the teams, I feel like the league is stale. I don't know if that makes sense. And mainly, I believe that's because of how the orgs have been acting up. It's pretty much what you guys touched on with the last guy that was on, about how they seem reluctant to make changes. Instead, they focus on keeping up old and maybe not so good anymore talent, like how CLG stuck with Dershawn for maybe 3 splits after his prime, or after he was relevant, or who he was hired to play with 100thieves last split. I don't know. I feel like the org should be doing a better job of scouting and finding talent, and that would fit into the competitiveness of the league and will boost the entertainment value of it.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, right now, I believe that if things go on as they are, no one's going to be watching any games other than maybe the top 3.
I can agree with the fact that I think that teams could do better at scouting to at least have like new faces and to not recycle people. But I don't think that's why like the league is necessarily stale like you think. I think it's always going to be like this, where there's going to be some teams that are going to be clearly worse than others. And I think that generally that's kind of a good thing to have like your top teams be clearly top teams, and to have like a clear middle of the pack and then have a clear bottom set of teams. I think, and that's just kind of normal. Like that exists in traditional sports too. Like no one wants to watch the like last place baseball teams or something play each other. like except for the diehard fans, and they'll watch and they'll go there because they have like places to watch in person and they just want to drink and hang out. But it's not like they're there to be like, yeah, this is competitive. Like our boys are gonna win it all this year. Like, I don't know. It's pretty normal for there to be some stale games, I think. But do you feel like
Yep.
the top games are stale?
Some of them I do, because I feel like the whole thing is decided before it even begins. I don't know. I just were things to spruce up some of their mistakes, or I don't know, perfect, make the play, I don't know, better. I guess
Mhm.
some games would be decided from champion selection. I believe that games that Cloud9 has lost or TSM have been purely because of they've been fooling around too much in game, or
I
because
mean,
of some very specific calls.
yeah, I mean, on things like that, like if games are getting lost due to calls or like champ select, that is just like a part of the game that happens and can be a little annoying, but it happens. Like teams very often lose games where they have the winning draft too, and then get flamed for having the losing draft, even though the draft is winning. Um, Another thing that might play into this is just the fact that what I will agree on is that I think games can be stale because of the fact that regular season lasts a little while too long, and like playoffs can kind of get decided for some teams. And like when you're at the top, like I've been in that position before when like we were on Echo Fox. Um, the games don't matter anymore because your placement's decided. Like we literally just kind of made sure we had fun for the rest of the split and tried to stay at least competitive, but not stress ourselves out and burn out. So we weren't taking the games like as seriously. And I'm sure like some teams do that. Like I know last year, I'm sure that's what TL were doing towards the end of the year too, right? When they
Yeah,
were dropping
last
games at
split
the
too.
end. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like last split, like I'm sure that's happening, but they're guaranteed first, so they're gonna like take it back a bit because if they try too hard all the time, like you'll burn out. And I know, like Travis, you were mentioning in an interview or something about Double Lift was talking about burnout from going from this last split into MSI and then right back into practice because there's like a 2-week break. So it's important that like there's going to be some boring games so players can rest. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
also
think that's a fair point.
I also agree a lot with what Inero was saying just about like if you look at how traditional or just how sports anywhere works, like yeah, there's favorites. You know, you come in, you're like, I bet Golden Guardians are making the finals, and like in a lot of ways, like it can kind of make them boring in that sense. Where like you know they're going to be great, you know who's going to be terrible just based off rosters. The whole thing about like league losing games and champ select, like Inero saying sometimes community tunnels too much on that, but that is just how League of Legends works. That's why people enjoy talking about the draft because it is important a lot of the time. Maybe not as much as people think all the time, but there are some games where someone like has a sick flex pick and like forces you to do something weird, or someone bans the wrong thing, whatever. Like it's just another thing to talk about. I don't know if that's something that bothers you about League of Legends at its core.
No, I love it.
Oh, okay. Well, so then I don't quite understand why it's boring to you or concerning to you that people lose in champ select or lose due to calls. Like if you go back to season 2 and season 3 and even season 4 when the game was at its hypest, like people were losing games to calls all the time then too. Like that's kind of just the game of League of Legends in that sense.
My issue ain't so much that people are losing games to calls or champion selection. That's exactly what you described. It's part of the game. My issue is that if you're a team that's in last place or last 4, I guess, in like we are right now, why wouldn't you try to spice things up a bit by promoting some of your academy talent or trying something else? Because that would, in my opinion, at least, maybe it's risky from the business side and from the competitive side, or because exactly what you guys were talking about earlier, that it might have a lot of backlash towards the team and towards the staff and whoever is employed by the team. But if your team is losing in with your old talent and you can do nothing about it, why not try and put in some fresh talent or someone from
Yeah.
academy that might make the game more entertaining to watch, and you're gonna give some new guy the chance to be great. So why not?
Yeah, I mean
Well,
that's what teams are doing though too. Like that's what Echo Fox did because they were obviously like they have results in scrims and they come in and they're thinking that this is best and then they're losing, so they're changing it up. 100 Thieves started subbing in like academy players in their academy matches, like swapping players around, and then did an LCS. C9 last year when they were slumping before the season started, brought in Blabber and Golden Glue, and like they did that. I feel like a lot of teams do that actually. Like if they're doing bad, they'll swap, and it happens all the time. So I mean, it's there for sure. Like all the bottom
Yeah.
teams are changing their roster around.
The only one
Maybe
who
I'm tunneling in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the only one who hasn't changed their roster of bottom teams who are at 1-5 right now is FlyQuest, but they were the fourth best team in the league last split. So like, I don't think they should. I would argue they shouldn't swap their roster around. And like, so I think like Inero was saying, Echo Fox and 100 Thieves both have the other two 1-5 teams. FlyQuest hasn't for good reason. And then one of the other things we hit on earlier was just randomly throwing academy players to the wolves to play against TL is not teaching. It's not teaching them anything. They're just gonna get ass blasted and they're gonna feel bad. Like there's a reason people play in high school and collegiate before going pro often, because you need time to develop. Part of it in traditional sports is just how big your body is and not getting run over by Ray Lewis or something in his prime. But like the other part of it is taking time to learn the steps along the way. So like Fake God is not going to probably learn that much more playing in LCS than he would in Academy against like Team Liquid. He's just going to get crushed. Whereas if you're playing closer around your skill level, you can probably learn more. I don't think I think you should at times put people in, but you can't just blindly swap out your whole roster or something to try and give guys experience. You need to make sure that there isn't enough basis for them to actually learn.
To comment on like the champion picks thing too, because I think you mentioned that and then someone in the chat did as well. To like try different picks and stuff. Like I think that's what Optic did that they had success with. I mean, they just put Dokla on tanks, which aren't really the meta top, and like it worked for them and it's good. But I mean, that one's not really entertaining. Like no one has fun watching a Poppy show up in a fight and just like.
Yeah, but they have fun watching TF, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, TF as well has been like a meta pick. Like it hasn't popped up on stage, but literally everyone in scrims has like played it at some point, and it's been there. But like, if you're wanting a team to come out and do like what G2 did, where they play Yuumi Pike bottom, I mean, there's a reason there's like meta picks that everyone plays, and it's because they're the strongest. And usually, if you're a bad team, you're just trying to have like the strongest base composition you can have, so that you have the best chance of winning. And trying like this extra creative stuff when you're already not playing well as a team is even harder. Like you can't play like Yuumi Pike and be a bad team and suddenly you're gonna win. Like it's actually gonna make your game really hard, and you're just gonna end. Like you're gonna look really bad on stage.
Creativity and really unique drafts is usually like the cherry on top of a good team. It should not be the entire cake of your good team. You can sometimes be creative to like get a win or two, but there's really it's really hard to be a great team who is completely founded on being creative. Like G2 is creative, and they also basically have top 5 players in every single position, like top 2 if we're being honest, in like 4 of their positions.
So it's hard for teams to just do that. It's really difficult. But.
Can I touch on a little something that you guys said?
Actually, Banana Balls, I'm sorry, we're running low on. We're not running low on time, but I do want to get to the next 2 callers and then maybe wrap up the show because I know the audio issues have been rough. But I really appreciate you calling in.
Sorry, bro.
Okay, never mind then. Thank you.
Is there anything
you guys for having me on?
Yeah. Is there any shout-outs or anything you want to say at the end?
Nothing in particular. I'm gonna be in Athens for the LEC finals, I guess.
Oh, congratulations!
So, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for having me on. Have fun, guys.
Thanks, man. See you.
I'm gonna restart Discord again because last time I think that helped a little bit for a little bit, and it seems to be getting worse. So I'll be right back. Sorry about this, chat, and any VOD or podcast listeners. I'm really frustrated by it. It was working fine right before I did the show, so I'm thinking it's an exploit issue or something.
Yeah. I mean, when I unmute your stream, it sounds fine to me, too, so I don't know what's up.
No, I mean, I'm definitely hearing it a little bit through the speakers. I think it's just, I don't know, maybe I need to update Exploiter or something. It's strange because we weren't having this issue before the show started, but that's how these things work sometimes. Blackout 3000, thank you for the 10 months. Impossible Katana, thank you for the 8. And Signos, thank you for the Prime. Looks like we have our next caller on, D-Lord M. D-Lord M, where are you calling from?
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're our first caller from Saudi Arabia. What do you want to talk about in the show?
Actually, I've been noticing that Riot shifting more. I mean, it used to be more entertaining to watch LCS before, like 3 years ago, than now. They're advertising more. They're increasing the ads between the matches and everything, and that's kind of, you know, for me, I watch League because I love the competition. I love to watch teams play against each other. So when Riot starts, I think that they're killing the competition. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a lot of the ideas that they present. I sub or buy most of the products that they advertise. But again, I feel like their focus is shifting more to advertising than promoting the competition itself.
Well, I think I mean, obviously we've got an Alienware logo on the screen right now, but I don't mind them trying to monetize the league. I don't mind them trying to monetize the league because I think that's a good thing. Because before, like there was a lack of sponsorship, so I don't mind the increased advertisements. But I do think if you feel like they're not doing as well of a job, sort of telling the stories or having the content, like if the league product is lessening while those advertisements are increasing, I could see that being an issue. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes, exactly. I feel like the advertisement is taking over the league content.
Well, what do you guys think, Mark or Inero?
This is a weird one for me to talk too much about.
Because you're part of the broadcast, yes. But I'm just curious if
Right.
you have anything you feel like you can sort of speak to.
I think one of the things that's going on in NA right now is there is a turnover of on-air talent that people generally latch onto talent for good reason. They're kind of the face of the product and the broadcast. And this probably isn't speaking directly to what D-Lord was talking about. I think it would be a bit more of a tangent, but like I've noticed a lot of people talking about the dive, teamfight breakdown, this or that, broadcast in general, like Jat's gone, Zyrene's gone, there's just general turnover, and people always want to latch onto that thing. Like when Monty left, there was that people just couldn't stand, or not just couldn't stand, but really missed him in Korean broadcast. When Joe Miller and D-Man left, they really missed him in the EU broadcast, and it took a while for EU to find like their new, not really fine, but for I guess the community to forget that all that stuff is gone. So I think there's a lot of people right now in general slightly in this weird limbo of watching the NA broadcasts where they're missing a lot of their old talent and stuff. That, I mean, Jat was great. I'm not gonna pretend like he wasn't a fucking.
Hey, sorry, whenever we're getting your coughs a little bit, D-Lord, so if you cough, can you just mute the mic?
Yeah, sure, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I think there's been a turnover as well as with franchising introducing new ads, and like the countdown being this new product that they're trying to do more of, their push pro view. There's a lot of change happening in general right now, and like if you were a fan, like what is there to hold on to? And it's honestly not much as all this change goes on, because even the talent is turning over. Like
yeah,
I haven't honestly felt too disrupted by the ads, and honestly, it's kind of a thing that we have to accept, that if we don't have ads, we just won't have a competition. Like it just won't exist. Like we kind of have to ease people into being used to advertisement because we need it to sustain the league. Like owners are going to want that. It's really important to have that in some way. So if we just never do ads, like we got to find a different way to get money. And I don't know. There's plenty of ways around ads too, unless you're meaning like the baked-in ads that cycle through the game, or like the broadcast itself does.
Yeah. But I do think I think Mark raises a fair point though, which is sort of the state of the broadcast is in an awkward place. It's definitely a transition year. I think, my hope is that there's a lot of stuff being worked on behind the scenes to try to make things a little bit better. And we will see, like if 2019 is kind of an awkward year, 2020 comes back, because it does make sense that like, okay, we're seeing a lot more ads. Wouldn't it be nice to also see the content kind of level up as we're seeing more of this revenue being created? So we'll sort of see how that goes. D-Lord, is there anything else that you would, is that sort of cover your topic?
Yeah, exactly. That's all.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Sorry, we're having, on top of the audio issues we're having, I think we're having a little bit of mic issues with you, but thanks so much for calling in all the way from Saudi Arabia.
It's
That's really
the
nice.
lag. Yeah, it's the lag because I'm calling all the way from there.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the call.
It's
I
pleasure
think
to
so.
be here. Big fan. Keep
Thank
it
you.
going, man.
Thanks. Have a good one.
To you
See
too.
dude.
Travis, you gotta put the servers in Saudi Arabia, the Discord server.
Yes. Next time we have a caller, we'll switch over to there for them. Looks like we got one more caller to go. If you want to go grab them. Off mark goes. Cygnus, thank you for the prime. And Gully Pete, thank you for the 11 months. Inero, thanks for being on the show tonight. I actually really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, no problem, man. You know I've got plenty of free time.
Well, I'm sure you could be playing Teamfight Tactics right now, so I appreciate that you
I
sacrificed
could
that
be.
for this. Yes.
It actually filled my time until I could get in the server, so
Yeah.
it's worked out perfectly.
Yeah. Well, looks like Mark should be bringing the last person here any second. I'm sure they're doing their final mic test right now. He looks confused. I don't know if they're having some tech issues. Would be hilarious if the last caller ended up dropping out, but they should be here in just a second. Oh, here we go. League of Casuals, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Greenville, North Carolina.
Greenville,
yeah.
North Carolina. Nice to get a call from. I don't know if we've had a Greenville caller before. What would you like to talk about on the show tonight?
I just want to kind of toss up a conversation for you guys to have because I'm not an expert, but you guys seem to be. I think we should go back to best of threes.
Oh boy, this call. Okay, continue.
Okay, I'm gonna get my word vomit out and let the smart people talk. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not an analyst or a coach, but I think we would all benefit from going back to best of threes because the tie thing, like the ties, 6 people in first place is stupid, quite frankly. We only have 1 week, we only have 1 game for a full week to show somebody's talent, and then they're swapping players in and out, and it just looks really volatile. And I think if we had more chances for these players to prove themselves, we would have less like mental deterioration over that full week on Reddit than just getting blasted.
Yeah.
And it would just be easier for us to see like, oh wait, so and so's not just a bad player; they just had 1 bad game.
Inero, I
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Inero, I assume you're in favor of best of threes.
No, I'm not in favor of best of threes.
Wow.
I mean, I think I was on your show last time when there was a best of threes versus best of one thing. And I know like teams like it and I get that, but like regular season is so fucking useless, to be honest. Like it's good for deciding the playoff teams, and that's great. And then the best of series start mattering. I honestly think that if you're a good team and you can't get the playoffs in best of one, it sucks for you, but like you should probably just get more consistent. Like teams can cheese games in best of one, but if a team is cheesing every single best of one game and somehow making playoffs, they fucking deserve it. Good for them. They must be really smart at figuring out other teams. But like in terms of like, were you listening earlier, League of Casuals, and I was talking about how like most of the games, once it gets to a certain point, like playoffs is decided and people take them a lot less seriously.
Yes.
The same thing happened in best of 3 when that was happening. And it makes like a lot of the series not really matter. Like a lot of the teams aren't taking it too serious, and the games aren't going to be that much more fun to watch because the players need to be able to not take it as serious so that way they can avoid burning out. Like actually being at the studio and playing those 3-hour games every weekend, like it's really not that much of a time commitment. It's really not that much. But if you're at the studio and you're having to show up early and you're waiting for like the 2 worst teams to play ahead of you or something, and they're just having like an hour-long slugfest in each game and you're just stuck there fucking waiting, it's really hard as a player. It's just annoying. Like your whole day is just shot. And yeah, like we're obviously talent. We're meant to like deal with that because we're getting paid for it. But it's a little taxing. And then when you combine that to playoffs is going to be best of 5. Then if you go to an international event, it's more best of series. It's pretty difficult. And I feel like spectators like the idea of it because they want to know who's better, but they don't like the idea of actually sitting there and watching it.
I also think to chime in, like Inero's done a good job covering it from the team perspective. From a broadcast perspective, it was tried and it failed. Now you could say, oh, they split the streams and that was the problem. And they try to jam it all into 2 days. They should spread it out more, but then you're making it worse for teams with their burnout and having to play on like two separate days over the course of the week or something like that. You know, the point about watching 2 shit teams, if it's the only thing on, people just don't watch. You know, it creates a whole hook of broadcast problems that hurt the leagues pretty bad, you know, 2 or 3 years ago. And then people always bring up like, oh, but it's more competitive. They'll train them to be better. That's just not true. We did not perform any better at Worlds the 2 years we had best threes, and we've just had our best international performances back to back recently in best of ones. So I mean, like, yes, more stage time is always better, but that's not the reason that we're winning or losing internationally.
Yeah. Like that was the argument way back then too, is that like you get more on stage games, but like you're practicing the same amount during the week. So if you need the on stage games to get better, then the practice is just bad. Like you must just be doing something wrong in practice if we can't get better from that.
Yeah.
Like someone also brought up in the chat about how like there's like, why does it work for LCK and LPL? I mean, they stagger their games throughout the week. Like they have 2 best of series at night, and that's like really it. But we don't do that in NA. Like all of our broadcasts essentially needs to be on the weekend. So if we're doing it, we're sending everyone to the studio to play, and then I guess we add another day, but it's still like the same thing.
And I guess define works for them. Like, okay, I mean, obviously people don't watch career because it's a shitty time of night, but like, what are your metrics for success of working for them? You're talking about from a competitive standpoint, like they're better regions than us. Like I can list a million reasons they're better than just they play more games on stage. If you mean from a broadcast perspective, it works for them, I would say, okay, like regions are different. Who knows how California has to pay people to do things? Like there's a million reasons it might work for them and not work for us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a tough, like this is always going to be a debate because there are actually a lot of downsides to best of ones and there's a lot of downsides to best of threes. And so it's the type of thing where you can always make the argument, well, like, look, here are these arguments in favor of best of threes or against best of ones or vice versa. Ultimately, though, I think like the viewership is such a huge part of it that, look, like people want to run a league that a lot of people watch. And if you're making decisions that make a lot of those people not watch it anymore, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
And I do feel like I'm inspired by the fact that, you know, North America and the West are doing well in our own system, as Mark said. So I don't know if that covers it, League of Casuals, but I appreciate the call regardless.
I will say that I think best of 3 is like the best way to find out which teams do better.
Yes, that's indisputable, but
it just kills viewership. Like, really
but a best of 5 might be better at finding out who the best team is too.
I mean that's the slippery slope. And like Inero said, you know, how many teams have we not sent to playoffs? We were like, God damn, that might have been the best team in the league that we just this best of one system screwed them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I can't think of a time where I was like, oh boy, CLG missed playoffs, but woo-wee, if they were in best of 3, they would have made it and won the whole thing. They got screwed.
Yeah, it just finds the better 6th place team.
Hey, League of Casuals, thanks so much for calling us. Is there any shout outs or plugs you want to say here at the end?
No, just thanks for letting me be wrong on air. No, I totally hear what you're saying. That's why I wanted to hear people that actually know what they're talking about discuss it. But yeah, thanks for letting me on. Big fan.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much for the call.
Bye.
Thanks, bro. See
Have a
you.
good one.
Gotta love having another North Carolina boy on the call.
That's right. I forgot you were from North
Yeah,
Carolina.
I'm from Greensboro. He's from Greenville.
Well, it's a
We're
bit
really
of shorter
creative.
episode today, guys. I'm sorry. Also, I'm sorry if I felt a little or seemed a little detached from it. I was feeling a little under the weather, but also just trying to figure out the audio issues. I will try to get these fixed for next week. Please be sure to check out the live Hotline League that we'll be doing. We'll do one next week, I believe, but we'll also be doing one that weekend, so it should be pretty fun. Mark, anything that you want to...
No, let me play Teamfight Tactics.
I think maybe we'll all go play Teamfight Tactics. Inero?
No, just shout out to my org for being so fucking great.
Awesome.
I love Golden Guardians, and thanks for having me, Travis.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. I love you all, and that's the show.